what brand it is.
A little Johnny O.
Johnny O. Is that what it is? I want to buy another one. I got this one.
Hello and welcome back, Eddie Radosevich. George Stoya here from the SoonerScoop.com studios, working on a holiday. Happy Martin Luther King Day to everybody out there. National Championship coming up on Monday night in Atlanta, Notre Dame and Ohio State. And I'm sure there's going to be a lot of people that are focused in on the Ohio State, maybe even the defensive side of the ball. We'll get into a little bit of some Jim Knowles, not necessarily news, but just the latest here as of Monday afternoon. First, want to tell you about William & Lauren, the official custom clothier of OU football. William & Lauren official outfits your favorite OU players in custom suits that boost their confidence off the field to match their confidence on the field. Perfectly tailored clothing ensures every Sooner stands out in comfort and style at prices that make luxury accessible. Visit William & Lauren in Oklahoma City or online at williamandlauren.com. That is williamandlauren.com. Dress like a champion and make your style as legendary as OU football, perhaps as legendary as Mr. Stoya come wedding day. Think that we're trying to get some suits, or maybe going to get some suits. Go to the Oklahoma City location.
Yeah, I'm excited to maybe head over there and get fitted and everything. And
you ever done that? Suit. You ever had a custom suit?
No, never had a custom suit. It
makes you feel a little bit better about yourself when you do.
100%.
You have to,
and I know they'll get us right,
and you'll. Of course, be hollering at William & Lauren. Special thank you to them. They've been with us all season. And as we roll into Monday night, a national championship in Atlanta, Jim Knowles and the Ohio State defense. And let's just start here. I think this is something that we've been talking about here now for the last week and a half, 2 weeks, just in terms of, wait a second, could Oklahoma really lure Jim Knowles away from Ohio State? And as of Monday afternoon, it certainly seems like there hasn't been a no from the Jim Knowles side of things.
Yeah, I know our own Kerry Murdoch and all of us have kind of been reporting on this, but Kerry posted an update on SoonerScoop.com, another reason to join the board for $1 right now. Posted an update this morning kind of just saying it. Hey, look, OU and Jim Knowles have been, somewhat talking. Brent Venables specifically has kind of made him their top target. He is trying to get this thing done. We'll see if they can make that happen. But I know there's a lot of rumors out there about, is it already officially a done deal? That's not true. Nothing's been agreed upon. We don't even know if an official contract has been sent. I'm sure there's been some discussions of what that offer might look like. Oklahoma's going to have to pay up. Like, make no mistake about it. If Oklahoma's going to land Jim Knowles, they're going to have to pay him a lot of money. Maybe make him the highest paid defensive coordinator in the country. Right now, he's making $2.2 million.
That's right.
So,
which I believe was top 3 of any assistants in the entire country.
So they would have to probably make him the highest paid assistant in college football, which is crazy to think about. But as of right now, I think it's kind of a wait and see. And that's what it's been. When we originally reported this a couple weeks ago now, I think a lot of people maybe laughed at us. Now it's become the talk of, OU football and even on the Ohio State side. I know there's been a lot of talk on that side of would Jim Knowles actually leave. There's definitely some truth to the sides talking. Now, I think it's also just been hey, let's get to the national championship game.
Sure.
Get that behind us and see what happens.
I guess let's go here because I think that there's a lot of questions when you're talking about Jim Knowles, and on the surface there's going to be nationally a lot of people that go, what the hell, why?
Yeah.
Why would this be a comfortable situation for both? I guess is probably the number one question.
Well, first of all, Oklahoma, it's a no-brainer, right? You can bring in a guy like Jim Knowles, who's I would say probably the best defensive coordinator in college football right now. You see what he's done at Ohio State, but even before Ohio State, what he was doing at Oklahoma State just does a remarkable job. He runs the same defense that Brent Venables does. So it wouldn't be a huge transition. Sure, maybe some of the language and things like that would change, but in terms of your base 4-2-5 defense, it's the exact same that Brent Venables runs. The only difference is you change, Cheetah to Star. That's the name that Ohio State uses, or Star to Cheetah, like Oklahoma uses. So that would make a ton of sense. Why would you not hire him?
Yeah.
Jim Knowles' side, that's where it's hard. I think a lot of people logically are like, why would he leave Ohio State? Well,
why would you leave Ohio State, who's playing for a national championship on Monday night, go to Oklahoma, where there is so much uncertainty, right? About kind of the direction of everything that's going on with Brent Venables.
Look, my understanding is this from Jim Knowles' side. One, you have the obviously family personal connections His fiance, let's just be honest about it, his fiance lives in Oklahoma.
Sure.
Is from Oklahoma. I think, Jim Knowles liked living in Oklahoma in Stillwater when, he was at Oklahoma State. So it would make sense from a personal reason. I think from a professional reason, he is somebody, from my understanding, that loves a new challenge. And I think that he probably looks as at Oklahoma as a very big challenge to come in, help Brent Venables turn this thing around. And even if Brent Venables isn't able to turn it around, I would think that he would have a very good chance to stay in Oklahoma if Brent were not the guy. Like,
You're
I think
saying as a defense coordinator, he would stay on with whomever they would hire. That'd be interesting.
Right. And who's to say, a year from now, if Oklahoma has a new head coach and they're bringing somebody in, maybe it's a young coach or whoever, why would they not want to keep Jim Knowles? And why would Jim Knowles not want to stay if Oklahoma is making him the highest paid assistant in college football? So I think there's a lot of reason why Jim Knowles might, you can kind of connect the dots. Now, still, I think a lot of people on the outside will be like, you're leaving Ohio State, who, I think we both think is going to win the national title tonight.
A very good
go
chance.
to Oklahoma.
I think a very good chance on paper.
But, crazy things happen in college football. It's the same with Zach Alley. If you told me, why would Zach Alley leave Oklahoma to go to West Virginia?
Yeah.
There's a lot of, behind the scenes things that happen and personal reasons that come up. I don't want to, I'm not comparing myself to Jim Knowles, but, a lot of people said when I left to the NFL, covering the NFL and the Denver Broncos, why would George Stoia ever do that to go cover college football? Well, sometimes you just want to go back home. You have family reasons. You have personal reasons. Scoop made me a great offer you can't turn down. So, I think that sometimes you have to think about it like that, where there's more than just it's Ohio State, Oklahoma. I think that, Jim Knowles is weighing all those options. And again, I don't think he's made a decision yet. So it's hard. And we don't even know things like, does Jim Knowles work well with Ryan Day? I don't know the answer to that.
Well, and it's a little bit of what we had talked about on the Unofficial 40. I think we talked about it with Josh McCuistion last Monday as well, just in terms of, could you look at a situation where the winner of tonight's game, are they moving on to the NFL?
Yeah.
And does that open or change anything for Jim Knowles? It's going to be fascinating. I know that, as we get into the beginning of the week, the front part of this week, timeline-wise, if it is going to be Jim Knowles, I would think that this thing would accelerate come the end or the fourth quarter tonight in the football game.
Look, I think there's a chance we could find stuff out late tonight, early tomorrow. That would be the earliest, right? This next 24-hour window. I think it could drag out to, maybe Wednesday or Thursday, but it does feel like Oklahoma will have some sort of answer on whether, Jim Knowles actually wants to come to Oklahoma or not. And if he doesn't, then they pivot. And, I think that Wes Goodwin would make a lot of sense to bring in as the linebackers coach. Brent calls the defense. And, I don't know this for fact.
You're saying if Jim Knowles was not interested, if they moved on from somebody else.
Yes, exactly. That's the scenario if Jim Knowles were to say no to Oklahoma. I think that would be the most likely scenario. I think there's maybe a couple other names that could float out there, but I think Oklahoma would want to move quickly. I don't know what the date is today. What is it? January 20th.
20th, yeah.
I would think they would want to get something done this week in terms of who their, quote unquote DC is. My guess, Eddie, and this is just a guess, if it's not Jim Knowles, I think Brent Venables is calling the defense next year for Oklahoma. That's just my gut feeling. Is that if Jim Knowles says no and he doesn't end up in Norman, Brent Venables is your quote-unquote defensive coordinator.
It is going to be interesting, too, because I think there's a lot of people that will look at it and go, well, if you have all this money ready to go for Jim Knowles, why wouldn't you just go to the next guy and pay just as much? It almost seems like if they're going to spend big dollars, it's going to be Jim Knowles.
Yeah, and I think...
And if not, I guess you move on and you let Brent run the defense, which, I think fair or not fair, he's going to want to have a hand in it somehow.
Look, I think there's a very very few people in the world that Brent Venables would trust to run the defense.
You think he could let go of it, though?
I
guess that's
I don't
the big
know.
question mark, right?
That's the question, right? But I think Jim Knowles is one of those select few people. And that's why you say, well, why don't they just go to the next guy? I don't know who that next guy is.
Sure.
Right? And it has to fit. This is a really good fit in terms of scheme, personality-wise. It would make a lot of sense for Brent to hand it off. And Jim's had a ton of success. Like I said at the beginning of the show, I mean, he's considered, maybe the best defensive coordinator in all of college football. So I don't know who that next person would be, like you're alluding to go get. And honestly, who would you rather have? Jim Knowles or Brent Venables running your defense, or somebody else, right? Like, and I think that Jim is one of those guys that Brent would be comfortable handing off to. And I think, for the fans and us and everybody, it would make a lot of sense if it's not Jim, for just Brent to do it. Because Brent is also one of the best defensive coordinators in college football.
I think he's lost that, but we're just a year removed from everybody saying, well, he needs to get less involved.
Yeah.
And now you want him to get more involved. Not you, but just the collective.
But would you rather have Brent Venables calling it or somebody else next season other than Jim Knowles?
I think my brain immediately goes to, I don't think that Brent would allow somebody else to do it, so you might as well have Brent do it if it's not going to be Jim Knowles. I think it changes if you could hit that grand slam and get a Jim Knowles into Norman, which, again, it seems like this is very real as of Monday afternoon.
I think, if they were able to do it, it'd be one of the biggest hires I can remember in OU football history. That's just not the head coach.
An optics thing as well, just going from, as we said last week with Zach Alley leaving almost kind of overnight, and then the optics that came from that, obviously the 6 and 7 season certainly didn't help. But if you could rebound yourself and all of a sudden you go get somebody, or you go pluck Jim Knowles from Ohio State, it would be a massive momentum swing.
It'd be the talk of college football.
Sure.
Oklahoma able to pull something off like that. Now, obviously, there are certain circumstances that's allowing that to happen, maybe personal circumstances, but still, like I said, Oklahoma's going to have to pay a lot of money.
That's kind of the next question. Is Oklahoma in a spot financially that they can make something like this? Is it crazy to think that they could pay up to get a Jim Knowles?
It certainly sounds like it. It certainly sounds like Oklahoma and its donors are doing everything it can to make this possible. And I think they have the means to do so. So, I don't know. I don't think it's going to be Knowles turning it down because it's not enough money. Maybe Ohio State just comes up with the enormous amount of money to keep him, which is very possible. Like, I wouldn't rule that out.
Sure.
But I do think that it sounds like Oklahoma's been able to, get enough money to make something like this happen, which is, definitely goes against the narrative that's out there about OU.
No doubt about it. It'll be very much a wait and see, and obviously we're going to be here basically from the crack of dawn on Tuesday, just to because it feels like there is an expectation that maybe this thing starts moving quickly if it were to go down that road. Couple other items to note: Scott Peters was named the offensive line coach with the Cincinnati Bengals. Mike McCarthy will serve as an assistant offensive line coach. The only reason I bring that up,
not the Cowboys, Mike McCarthy,
right? A Michael McCarthy, not a Mike. But the one thing that should be pointed out in all of this, it's not Bill Beatenbow. And I think that it was a little bit worrisome when you see Orlando Brown up in Cincinnati, you see Cody Ford in Cincinnati, and the idea, well, maybe this would be a comfortable spot if Bill ever wanted to make that jump into the NFL.
And I think that the Bengals were somewhat interested in him. I do. I don't know how far along that interest got, but I think Bill Beatenbow is somebody that wants to stay at Oklahoma. He gets interest from NFL teams every year, so this is no surprise. Now, this one was a little bit more interesting, like you said, because of Orlando Brown and Cody Ford, and the offensive line just wasn't as great this year. But I think Bill Beatenbow really loves the talent he's got coming in. Not only from the high school ranks, but obviously the two guys from the portal, and then the guys that are coming back. I feel like he thinks that this could be a special group, and he's been pretty open and honest about he wants to stay in Norman as long as they'll allow him to.
Sure.
And so. I think that it's always a little worrisome, but when the NFL comes calling, but I do think that it's no surprise that Bill's staying in Norman.
Not to mention all the guys, and we've talked about it, almost ad nauseum in terms of all the guys that are coming in and with the class, and then you have the freshmen that are returning next year, and it just seems like it's a good core and a good spot, or a better spot than maybe where this offensive line was throughout the season.
100%. Michael Fasusi obviously changes that conversation a ton. Ryan Foje, who we all think is going to be a good player, but like I said, the guy's coming back. Logan Howland, who I think we all think is going to be a good player for Oklahoma in the future. Heath Ozida, Eddie Pierre-Louis. They have more talent and young talent and depth than they've had in a while. So I do think that you give them some time under Bill Beatenbow, and they're going to develop into pretty good players.
Thoughts, concerns, criticisms on the happenings in Atlanta tonight?
Not really.
I just want it to be a good game.
I do
just
too.
Get to the fourth quarter, give
Yeah.
give Notre Dame a chance, and who knows? Like you said, it's college football. I feel like every time that we have this thing figured out, it flips back the other way.
And the one thing we haven't seen from Ohio State so far in these playoffs is Will Howard hasn't made the big mistake,
Sure.
and maybe Notre Dame could make him, force him into the big mistake tonight,
Yeah.
and then all of a sudden Notre Dame's in the game, and so that's one thing. Will Howard's been playing really well. It helps when you have the type of players he does around him. But if they can force him into some bad mistakes, then I like Notre Dame to hang around. The problem also is Riley Leonard has made some big mistakes, and this Ohio State defense and Jim Knowles is gonna put it on him. So I think that it's gonna be a tall task for Marcus Freeman and Riley Leonard at Notre Dame.
All eyes will be on the Irish and the Buckeyes on Monday night, and then that will quickly unfold into, I guess, a defense coordinator watch 2.0 or 24K or whatever you want to call it here, as Oklahoma continues to, work its way through whatever this search has been.
Yeah, I think tomorrow at this time, it's 3-ish right now, 4-ish. I don't think we'll know exactly.
Sure.
Maybe, but I think we'll have a pretty good idea of maybe the direction this thing's headed.
It'd be something if they could do this, if they can pull this off. All right, that's going to be it. We will, of course, be right here on SoonerScoop.com YouTube channel, as well as SoonerScoop.com with On3, kind of monitoring everything as we go into Monday evening, and then just kind of waiting to see where this thing goes on Tuesday. So for George Stoya, I'm Eddie Radosevich. We will talk to you hopefully as soon as possible as all of this defense coordinator stuff unfolds. We'll see you next time on the SoonerScoop.com YouTube channel.